I want to start with a story. And this one is about one that I mentioned, a company I mentioned not that long ago. It's the AI startup Jasper. Okay. So Jasper is a fucking crazy story. And I had no idea. It blew my mind. I especially the end. It just totally just sent me for a loop. Okay.
Hustle smart, dream so wild, turn that grind into a joyride.
All right, hot dog. So, okay, I want to talk about, I got a really interesting question the other day from a colleague of mine, somebody we used to work with. His name's Pete. He's going by Pete now, actually. And really good guy. You know him, but anyway, I don't want to go too to that.
Yeah.
But, and he had like a really good question for me that I thought would be a good episode, basically a good episode. And it is when do you know to, or like metrics to persevere, shift focus, or scrap the idea? So in our case, when do you know to push, pivot, or pull the plug?
Right.
And I thought that's a really good question. But it's really broad and it depends on a lot of different things. I thought it warranted a bigger discussion. But as usual, I want to start with a story. And this one is about one that I mentioned, a company I mentioned not that long ago. It's the AI startup Jasper. Okay. So Jasper is a fucking crazy story. And I had no idea. It blew my mind. I especially the end. It just totally just sent me for a loop. Okay. So what is it for? Do you know what it is?
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
So ChatGPT comes out. These guys had been doing, they'd been working on basically an AI tool before AI was kind of sexy.
Yeah.
That I think it was leveraging ChatGPT for the most part. I'm not actually sure. Or maybe it's their own. It doesn't even matter. They're just doing something like that. And it's for blog writing. It was all like the concept of you could either do programmatic SEO, which for anybody who doesn't know, that's like web pages that like appear automatically when you like effectively when you search for them that have content that's based towards the search term. So if I'm looking for plumbers in Toronto, it's like a blog post from plumbers.com/Toronto/drains or whatever. And it's like all about something like that. So it gives you the impression that this is like really credible and in your area and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Anyway, so they do a lot of this work and they do these blog posts, same concept. So they have a totally wild ride. And I want to make sure I get this right. So I'm going to look at my notes. So, so David, Rogenmoser, I'm going to say his last name. Okay.
Yeah.
So he had this like, first off, so he had this original product before Jasper and it was the social proof when you purchase. So, when you go on a website, you buy a hat and it's like, this hat was purchased by Gary 10 seconds ago, 6 seconds ago.
Somebody in Oklahoma bought this.
Which like, I honestly think you could fake so
easily. I'm a
easily.
software developer. That's so easy to fake. Yeah.
People just fly on the shelves. That, whoopee cushion you want to buy, everybody's buying. Oh man, just came right into your living room there. So anyway, so it was going okay. Bootstrapped, had about 15 people. Starts to not be going so well, starts to plateau. I think it was bootstrapped anyway. And he cuts the team down to 5 people. Okay. So he cuts 2/3 of the team, pretty big movement. So then he goes, does the right thing. He asks his customers, what do you like from our platform? What are the things you find most interesting? And a lot of the customers said, we love this little AI tool that you're working on in the social proof software. There's something behind the scenes. I don't know if it was like crafting the message or something.
Okay.
Like, or something around like what the actual pop-up was going to be, something like that to that effect.
Gotcha.
And so he goes, okay, well, let's lean in more on AI. So they basically get this idea from their customers and they move towards this like blog writing tool.
Yeah.
So he decides, let's pivot. That is our focus. So he rebrands the company. So it becomes Jasper, refocus, jumps to, in about like a year and a half, $120 million in revenue.
Wow.
Fucking explodes. Okay. $1.5 billion valuation.
Whoa.
He raises another on that 1.5 billion. He raises 125 million in 2023. So like unbelievable story, right?
Amazing.
This guy who figures out, wow, I've got this, basic product. It's going okay. Oh, I have to cut all my team. So then you have a moment. Okay, when do I persevere with this idea, or do I pivot to a new one? And he was like, okay, if it's just the 5 of us, we better figure something out.
Yeah.
Pivots. Okay. I'll tell you how it ends in a second, but how do you think he knew when to pivot? Was it just like a financial thing? Is that when you know how to pivot?
Yeah, like why did he pull the plug on a bunch of staff all at once? If it was kind of going
like it was plateaued, right? And like a plateaued problem is kind of different.
So like plateau doesn't make me think I'm gonna fire people. It makes me kind of think like maybe I need to like move people around or redeploy or maybe hire more people.
He probably, I got to imagine he like overhired. I guess that's got to be the first thing, right?
Sure.
Because like, why are you getting rid of like 2/3 unless you had like a real cultural issue, which is also possible too. And there's some element that there might have been some cultural shit going on too. But so I was just like, that's pretty like a pretty amazing story. So here's the story today. So so basically they come up with this AI tool, and then boom, ChatGPT shows up, more mainstream, kind of like this quasi competitor at first, then like very much a competitor.
Right.
Okay, it is like as sophisticated, better UI, easier to do, ChatGPT assistants, like assistant AIs, which you can make for blog writing or whatever the hell you want, really. So it catches up. He fires a shitload of people. So they went up to 195 people at the company, which is actually amazing, by the way, for a $120 million company to have about like 200 staff. Like that's amazing. That's fucking unbelievable. And then so revenue starts faltering. They did this raise, which is good, but then he steps down. Revenues drop in 2024 to $55 million. Ouch. Less than half. And they're in huge trouble. And then basically he gets the boot. And what's crazy about his story is that he had a decent idea. It went okay. It plateaued. He pivoted to an amazing, timely idea. Went as good as it possibly could for like a year and a half. Then he gets the boot because it only gets $55 million. Which you think about his success previously, like he crushed the plateau thing.
But he raised at a valuation.
Of course.
Higher,
like the PE firm's like, see ya. But I think he kind of did it right. You know, there's the weird thing about this. But then the market shifted under him like so quickly. How do you pivot again at that $125
million? We are
in
unprecedented times when it comes to this sort of stuff, though, right? Like this is like pandemic type situation where the entire world pivots under your feet.
Hey, Dave here. Let me tell you a little secret. When we were building AppArmor, we needed to move fast, especially with quotes and invoicing. FreshBooks made that possible. Yeah, this is an ad, but seriously, FreshBooks was essential. My sales team could send sharp quotes in minutes, and it automatically handled millions in invoices and reminders. No chasing, no stress, just cash flowing in. It was so easy to get paid. It's built for small businesses by folks who get it. And yeah, like us, they're Canadian. What's not to like? If you want to spend less time on paperwork and more time growing your business, head to freshbooks.com and start your free trial. Trust me, it's a game changer. And now, back to the show.
So AI is like another massive pivot that just the world shifted under his feet, and it happened so fast. Like, what are you going to do?
But like, I struggle with this a lot though, because on the one hand, I think this guy did the right thing. I think he mostly did the right thing. Now they got beat up on other stuff too. Like why were people also, so there's a couple of reasons, right? Why people were leaving the platform, or revenues weren't as what they expected. One was that encroachment of the AI tools, the native AI tools. But a lot of the comments were around like their user interface was kind of clunky, and they stopped listening to customers as much.
Like when I think about if the competition
is such a short amount of time.
Yeah, but if you think of the competition being ChatGPT, you know, you go and type a prompt into your assistant, whatever, it spits out a blog post. You've got to then go and take that, post it. Like, did they not have a more integrated solution to go directly from prompt to it's published? Or
I wasn't as tactical in that in my research, but there's got to be some disconnect there between how it actually content gets published. There's also apparently they played some like games with the pricing a lot, trying to figure out. I was
just thinking of our episode that we did a few back where we talked about, you know, will AI crush your AI business? Will ChatGPT crush your AI business? And that sounds like exactly what happened.
That's what happened to these guys,
right?
Yeah.
So like in that episode though, we talked about the things that you could use to kind of build those moats around your business to prevent a foundational model from taking over your idea or whatever. And so why didn't they go deep on, hey, it's direct published to your website. There's integrations with Squarespace, all the different, you know, Wix, all those other, you know, website providers. Like why didn't they?
I don't know. You know, is the answer to that.
Were they building their own foundational model?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
they must have been.
They must have been, because otherwise, like, you would be benefiting from like a lot of this introduced functionality.
Right, and that was exactly the thing that we kind of thought is not a great use of time.
Yeah,
because you're not going to be able to have the resources, the time, the compute power, the nuclear power plant to
fire of energy to do this stuff.
This stuff. So that is kind of interesting that maybe he didn't follow what might have made sense or what his unique strengths were going to be there.
You know, I'll give this guy like some credit. Like, he did pull off something pretty spectacular. I think financially he's probably personally totally fine. But obviously, like I think he's probably not so fulfilled in other ways.
Yeah.
But I just think it's interesting to think about how quickly that happened. And one thing that I wanted to attack here with people who generally have this question, do I push, do I pivot, or do I pull the plug? Is the speed with which this can happen.
So
how quickly
what
you have
did he
to make
do? So like this happened.
He got booted. He got kicked out.
He got kicked out.
Yeah.
But like, did he try a pivot or was he just
No,
pushing?
I think they were just pushing. They probably wanted to do incremental improvements, but they were being disrupted.
So they missed the point of
I think
pivot.
so. I think they missed that opportunity.
I see.
So their actual fundamental valuation is a lot lower now. Like again, they probably had to do something, do some sort of technical moat or non-technical mode that just didn't involve an AI tool.
Right.
But think about it. Your whole business is your customers told you. This is the really thing that I find like really messed up about their story.
Yeah.
I think he did it totally accurately. The market just swept him up.
Yeah.
And it just happened so quickly.
So that was a missed pivot with
it was
push instead.
Yeah.
So when should he have known I should pivot? When should he have said?
I think if you're in that business, you've got to be using ChatGPT every day to see what they are introducing. It is so aggressively quick. You're in on those patch notes. You're watching this competitor like a hawk. And I also, it's funny too. I actually think that's, for me at least, counterintuitive advice that I give people. I tend to say to people, just focus on what you're doing. Don't worry so much about the competitors, at least at first. Like you need to get out there and get validation. But this guy's doing like $120 million. You're going to get a lot of attention.
So the way you like to define a pivot is when it's like external factors. It's
you're
like
being coerced.
You're being coerced.
The
like,
market or competitor, it chooses you.
Yeah.
You don't choose it. You're being forced to pivot. And that's basically effectively what's happening in this first case.
And he didn't, though. He just kept persevering.
Yeah.
And he ignored the signals. And okay. All right. So maybe that is helpful for entrepreneurs listening, is that you do need to be looking at what your competitors are doing and what the market is doing.
Yeah, I think so.
And reassessing, like, are we in a situation where we need to consider pivoting?
Right.
And then make that decision.
And pivots come in different shapes and sizes. I want to mention here too, because some people think this is my like joke for a lot of the talks I do. Is like some people like ordering like I don't know sandwiches instead of pizza for like the company party. It's like a pivot. Oh, we're pivoting to pizza this time. Or like some people
company snack pivot.
Right. And that, but the reality is it's more like so there are small changes like product changes and enhancements based on market and competitive feedback. But then there's like mission changes and culture changes and these big things that are effectively existential. Like you're going to lose at least people or customers or both. And that's kind of like the spectrum. So the thing I wonder about them is like, how far away were they going to make like a transformational level pivot again? Yeah. And maybe he was just out of gas.
So, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's hard to do a pivot.
So he was in that situation and he was like, okay, we're going to just push. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the criteria?
Because the signal was I made $120 million last year.
Right. So what are the signals where you should be pushing? And like, and that is the right decision. Like he made 120 million last year doing what he's doing. Why would he not continue?
Yeah. I think you can't make these decisions in a vacuum. So I already mentioned like be more aware of the market and competitors, but
they must have seen like growth starting to flatten out. Like even though they did, it was
weird.
Million,
the timing of the raise is really weird. And when I think they knew when they were raising that this was their best case valuation.
Oh, they're on the upswing and they knew they were peaking.
And then that if you look at the timing of it, like they would have known during the due diligence, I think, and they probably just, hand waved it, our sales will come around. It's seasonal. It's whatever.
Right.
But those sales had to be coming down.
Okay.
There's no way you can be less than half the next year after a raise without that showing up in your data 2 quarters into the year before. So, you know what I mean?
All right. So that's, that covers pivot, push.
Yeah.
So this guy got fired. So in a sense, they pulled the plug
on him as a leader.
Now, is Jasper still around?
It is. Yeah, okay. I think he's still around. It's just they're trying to figure out now where do we fit in this ecosystem, which means they're ultimately going to have to pivot again.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Or they'll just like be burning a lot of investor money. I mean, they still have customers, but you got to wonder for how long. The other thing too, I just want to make this point too, on this specific technology, aside from the fact that any one of these AI tools, these LLMs, the big ones, the Perplexities, the ChatGPTs, the Claudes, whatever, I think Perplexity actually just uses all of them anyway. But those like as far as blog writing goes, I've seen like an AI like journalism software where it like automatically writes articles for you like kind of come out of the box.
Right.
And it can do it programmatically too. This is the topic. Write me 1,000 blog posts about this. Like you're surrounded by competitors. Like writing, which is what it is kind of like version 1 of a lot of these tools.
So
I just don't think it's a great space.
I want to put a bit of emphasis on the pull the plug decision.
Okay.
Because that is super hard to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And you and I know this because
totally.
we had, so as you know, we built our business core safety app, and then we added other products that we could sell to our existing clients. And that's the way we kind of were able to get the average basket of goods that are.
Yeah. We went up from like 3,500 to about 12,000 customer spend
per
customer.
Per okay. Yeah. But we had some products that we launched that we never really pulled the plug on. But they were almost like, even though our company was doing well, those individual products in our product line were land of the living dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Even some of them
on their own, they would not have.
Some of them are just like orphan products, like maybe two different product lines that went
so
on forever.
What's the like? We never got to the point where we said, all right, let's pull the plug on that one, because we were too worried. There was like 1 or 2 clients that were buying other stuff from us.
Yeah.
And had that in their product suite. And like, we didn't really want to bail out on that. Mostly because they were using it, they were happy. We're going to keep collecting license fees, but we also just didn't want to look like we were pulling stuff out of the market.
We didn't want to end of life stuff. We had a real aversion to doing that, and I think there was a couple reasons, if I may, why. If you were to look at, so this is a bit specific to the knowledge of AppArmor, our company, but I'm just going to refer to these products sort of vaguely. Most of the time, when we had a product line or a feature or a function that we wanted to get rid of, and that was only helping 1 or 2 customers, those were important customers.
Yeah.
Almost every single time.
That's true.
They were, I can name them.
They were not the 12.
State of Florida.
Yeah.
State of Hawaii, Vanderbilt University.
Yeah.
University of Alberta, which was a big deal for us for different reasons.
Yeah.
Those were the big ones that were using a lot of those features. Actually, Workalone did pretty well. It got out there, but you know what I mean? Like, for a while, some of those things were one customer products.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think we didn't like.
So why? So we did that though, because we wanted to maintain that relationship, and that was more valuable to us than the cost that we were associating with the idea.
Yeah.
But I think there's most of the time,
financially, a terrible decision. The amount of time that we spent maintaining those products for those small number of clients using them,
not very
was
profitable.
Totally not worthwhile.
Not very
if those were independent products, we would have been in the land of the living dead
forever.
Not a viable company. Like,
Correct.
would not have worked out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to hold.
But that's at a place in time. So I'm going back to Pete here for a second. So Pete is really early on. He has an idea. He's trying to figure out. He's trying to validate the idea. It's like we're like pre-revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's trying to understand, what's my identification that I would know that I need this is a thing I should push, like the way it is. I should, look for a way to modify it, or this doesn't actually work.
Right.
And for me, like, just because I'm so like distribution sales focused, I'm always like, well, are people going to pay you or not? In the early days, that's kind of the way I figure it out. Yeah. Right. And the way that and by the way, an early idea, you absolutely cannot be married to, because you're going to go to that early customer or whoever you think your target customer is going to be, which might be wrong anyway, but you'll go to somebody, they're going to say, I'm not going to buy this from you, or I'm willing to pay you this much, which might not be enough, or like all these other different things.
Yeah.
And you're going to try and do it. And then you're going to get the insight that, okay, actually I need to go to these other people instead, or I need to change the product this little way. You will be pivoting constantly. Yeah. Like you can just call pivots just changes, just casual changes.
One thing that strikes me too about like not pulling the plug on some of those.
And if you can't, just finishing that thought. And if you can't find people to pay you, you have a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like, period. Like, we're not here to start a hobby. Yeah. We're here to make money. No matter what it is, no matter your purpose, no matter your vision, you must make money to do this, or you will not be doing it for very long.
Yes, I like making money.
I too am fond of money.
Sorry, though, going back to pulling the plug. And if I think about like why we didn't pull the plug, one of the things that I think we really liked about the way we got our marketing and our company positioned was that we did have solutions in all these adjacent spaces, and people would buy from us. We always talked about the thin edge of the wedge. Like, sometimes they would just buy one piece of our product offering and they would grow into the others. Yep. And I think for the clients, that was also comforting, because they felt that, hey, we're just going to buy this one piece from these guys.
Test them out.
Yeah. But then what I like is that as we evolve our public safety posture
Whatever.
solution provider thing that we're providing, we can actually grow into other products in this company's ecosystem. And there was kind of like an ecosystem advantage that we had. And I think we didn't like the idea of, I think we had about 6 core products in our ecosystem. And then, but
we had 6 products. I wouldn't call them core.
3 of them
3 were the real deal.
Definitely 2 were not super big sellers and a lot of effort and all that sort of stuff. But I think we didn't like the idea of going down to 4 and just like vacating that space.
I think I think I know where you're going with this, if I may. I think part of it too was we would push product lines understanding that we were defending our core product lines, the ones that actually made 90% of our revenue from competitive advance by having something in these other markets, just to put a little pressure on them separately so that they could be thinking, I want my competitors to think about defense. I don't want them thinking about how to come at us. If we don't come at them, they're coming at us. Right. So we put something into I'll give you an example. Everybody has strong, I was going to say this differently, but everybody has strong opinions about Blackboard. Okay. And in our market, Blackboard's chair
the like course
learning management thing. And they had like a safety module or whatever. And everybody was kind of fed up with them. And I remember they were like, well, we're going to add like safety app, like features and roll out a safety app. And so our next move was we introduced a campus wide app just to try and be like, do it. Do it. And it was, like, look, would we have an easy time marketing that? No. But it just gave us something to be like a talking point. If they came down.
That was purely a defensive play.
But I think that's important for.
Ironically, our platform was pretty modular, and we were able to do a lot of stuff in that space.
Yes and no. The LMSs just own the data. Like in some cases, literally, but I mean figuratively. Like it's just really hard to get access to that.
Yeah, exactly. They're not in the business.
They're not friends.
Giving access.
They're not friends
with
to random vendors.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
So I guess just to kind of bookend that. So push, we definitely know if you're growing, you're consistently growing, you're not seeing any competitors doing anything that's scaring you, all those types of things, all the signals are good. You just keep pushing through and blast, right? Pivot, this is like something external is messing with your business, whether that be a competitor, something environmental like a pandemic, something along those lines. That's when you really want to sit there and say, okay, like, do we need to change what we're doing here? And then pulling the plug, which was the thing we were least good at, is really we have to take a look at what overall benefit is that product offering. And like for us, we were getting value out of just being able to say, hey, we had a product in this space that's adjacent to our space for defensive reasons and stuff like that. And I think that's the reason we didn't actually pull the plug, but financially we should have pulled the plug on a bunch of them. So interesting. Yeah.
I think for going back to Pete one more time, and actually not just Pete, anybody in those early stages of an idea and you're trying to go to market, I think you have to understand a few things. The first piece of advice I would give you is if you're really committed to your idea, you've got to go out and do it, obviously. The second part here is that, and maybe don't give yourself like a hard time limit, but understand that it's going to take years. Whatever you're trying to do, you might see a teeny bit of revenue early and stuff like that, but I would be pushing, if I believed in what I was doing and I thought I was actually helpful and I was solving a real need and it felt like there was something there, like it felt right to me. It's hard to describe this. I want to come back to you on the product spec side of this. Like, how do you know the product fits the market need?
Right.
Aside from just sales. But understand it's going to take a while. And in those, like, let's just say it's 2 years. So in those first couple of years, you are constantly pushing and pivoting. Constantly.
Oh yeah.
And that's normal and okay.
Yeah.
Be okay with that. Do not be dogmatic about what your thing is or how it works. Like ultimately, and again, I said this a few minutes ago, it's about making money. So make money while delivering the value and being consistent with your mission. If you're able to do that, I think you're onto something, but you still might have to pivot. Like at least make these little changes as you go through it. Or, you might be an AI blog writing tool making $150 million. You might get suddenly disrupted.
Yeah.
But I think you got to understand that even in the early days of no matter your dollar value, you are still very vulnerable to quick market swings like that. And you have to be willing to pivot. Even $150 million, $1.5 billion valuation company.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of wild. Yeah.
Boy, we've been through a lot of pushes, pivots, and pull the plugs, sort of. In our
Can you think of a
experience.
time when you've had to, like, what have we pulled the plug on?
Well, we definitely exited a bunch of products.
Yeah, we
that
actually, that's true.
before
What am I saying? We've exited 4 different products.
Yeah, like before App Armor became our main hustle.
So how did we know to pull the plug? How did we know the
App Armor was going really well? It was mostly just this other one.
And the other things weren't going as well.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I think there was also questions of control and
There's
questions
also
of
fatigue
satisfaction
over
fatigue.
having to manage all those different products. So
yeah,
there's a lot of interesting.
But like I think that, but this is I don't want to leave this thread just yet. So that understanding that when to pull the plug for us was a very financial calculation. But I think in many cases, if you're doing the work, so when Chris has referred to this a few times, I'm just talking to you, audience, Chris has referred to the land of the living dead, where you're making a couple $100,000 maybe even, and you're doing something and you can't get through it. He was in David there was in the land of the living dead with the social notification sort of company. He plateaued his revenue and he pivoted really hard. But I think this is the consideration, though, is that in our case, we decided to let go of those other things. We decided to pull the plug because we also didn't like them. Yeah, I think is another.
Have you ever heard the term founder market fit?
What? No.
Like product market fit?
Yeah.
Think of founder market fit. Like we weren't the right founders to do those other products.
Whoa. You blew my mind with that.
I know, right? Yeah.
Okay. So what are we, what is a
chuckle from Graham?
Yeah. That's what Graham sounds like. So wait. That's interesting.
Yeah. Founder market fit.
Founder market
fit. Are you not the right founder for that?
So I guess like for me, I think of myself B2B sales, SaaS, tech savvy.
You were right out of school. You had worked in student government. You knew how to talk to security departments at universities and colleges. That's why you were the right founder market fit for that product.
Why were you the right founder market fit? Because you had been building mobile software. Mobile was hot as shit back then.
As I am on this podcast, I was kind of your sidekick. I just did the coding, right?
Yeah,
so
just
I was
the most important part. You just made the product, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's an interesting take as well. And I think maybe perhaps that's something for people to reflect on is like, does this thing you're working on meet your skill set as well? Like it's the intersection of things you care about, things you're good at, and things you can make at which you can make money.
Yeah.
And once you have those three things, that's the thing to do. Graham, your background's in like video and stuff like that. Oh, Graham's got a podcast studio. Good call, Graham.
Yeah, good move.
Here we are, right? So I think that's actually a really good take. I think that's something for people to remember too. So if your skill is in something technical or non-technical, or you're good at pottery or whatever, like you like lean into that, find ways to emphasize your advantages.
Right on.
Anyway, cool. Podcast complete.
Nice.
Peace out. See ya.
Start it up. Let's get it rolling. Big ideas, money folding. Hustle smart, dream so wild. Turn that grind into a joyride.